Hello, I'm Melissa Wandel, and welcome to our new program, Focus Manatee. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to join us. Focus Manatee is a program designed to provide you with information and insight on issues that deal with you and your loved ones' well-being and safety. These are issues that I am all too familiar with. In our day-to-day lives, there are so many things we take for granted. Our families, our well-being, our safety. It is essential that we take the time and the effort to make good choices, to make informed decisions, and to focus Manatee. In today's segment, we will talk about bullying. We will discuss the definition of a bully and resources that are available to those who may find themselves in this volatile situation. Today, we have two guests that will share both advice and their experience with bullying. I would like to welcome our expert, Skip Wilhoit, who is the coordinator of Safe Schools, Dropout Prevention and Student Intervention Specialist, and Manatee High School student, Angie Barnard. We are grateful for your time today. I want to thank both of you for coming, and I'm very excited to learn a lot of different things about bullying and how we as a community can really understand it and focus on it and be able to pinpoint when that's happened, so when our kids come home that we can get some fresh ideas on how to talk to them. So thank you both for being here today.
Hey, thanks for having us, Melissa.
Yeah. Skip, I want to ask you, first of all, what is the true definition of bullying?
You know, if you look around the country, there's a lot of different definitions, but they usually center on three different criteria. And in Manatee County, we adopt two of them. Bullying is when someone uses an advantage in power that they have over other people or persons to harm them intentionally, a willful intent to cause harm. And those are the two criteria, that advantage in power and that willful intent to cause harm, that we feel are an essential part of the definition of bullying that really separates it from other forms of peer conflict. If you look at other definitions around the country, or around the world for that matter, a lot of people put the repeated nature of the behavior in there. And we're not going to argue that that's the case, but we also maintain that the first time somebody's bullied, it's bullying. The first time that somebody's backed into a corner, the first time that somebody's threatened, the first time that they're called names or teased or put down, it's still bullying. So that repeated nature of the behavior, it doesn't have to be there for it to be bullying. But if you investigate it, 9 times out of 10, you'll probably find that repeated nature there.
And that's really good advice, because I know a lot of times, you know, kids come home and they say, well, I've been bullied, and that term gets, you know, that term, we don't know if the term is misused. You hear so many people now say, oh, the term's being misused. But a lot of times, as we see, and we see it big time in our schools, and we see it in the media a lot lately, that's not the case, that there are some huge bullying issues going on.
It happens. I mean, you see both sides. A lot of times, anybody at home, they listen to their child and they might think, oh, my child's being bullied, without knowing all the facts. And because it is such a hot button item lately, people jump to it. But it is going on. It's going on in every single one of our schools. And we do survey our schools, so we have a pretty good idea of how prevalent bullying is in every single one of our school buildings and across our school district. And that really helps us to target interventions for that specific behavior to help reduce it.
Okay, great. And Angie, you're with us today from Manatee High School, and in the past you have been a victim of being bullied. Yes. But you decided to take that and learn from your experience and take it and do something positive with it. Can you tell us what you have been doing with getting the issue out there to try to help other kids so they don't go through the same thing that you've been through?
Well, it started with my History Fair project. I decided to do it on a man called Dr. Dan Olveus. I became involved in METV with my bullying advocacy. I decided that instead of sitting back and watching the kids at my school and the kids around me stay silent about the issue, that I would be the one to stand up in their name and make their presence known, because a lot of times kids don't have the courage to stand up and say that they're being bullied. So I wanted to be the voice of the kids that can't have a voice for themselves.
And I think that's great. I mean, that first step of when something happens and you do have it, you know, it's something sitting in your lap, and you do have the ability to get out and reach out and help other people and say, let's pull our resources together. Let me help you through this. That takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of courage as a young student to do that. And how did your peers accept that?
Well, it was a mixed response. Some people thought it was a great idea, and they were really supportive of what I was doing. And other people didn't think it was all that important. They thought, bullying, you know, I don't understand what the issue is. It's not really a big deal. I don't see it, so how can it be happening? And I look at those people and I say, well, you'll see. Because you'll see what's going on, because I'm going to tell you exactly how this is happening right at our school right now. And a lot of times they don't want to see that there's bullying going on because the term is just foreign to them. When they think of a bully, they think somebody on the playground that's going to beat you up and take your money. Like that's all they see. And so when I say bully, they see physical. And so I thought I'd just get the message across that that's not necessarily the case.
And what are some of the signs? What are some of the things that the bullies are doing to other students?
Sometimes it's a psychological thing, especially if you're female. It's a stereotype, but it's more often than not accurate. Girls will go for the psychological angle. They'll be name calling. There'll be repeated behaviors of calling them out in front of the class, of embarrassing them in the hallway, of cornering them and making them feel like less than they are. And for a lot of the students at our school, that's mostly what I see on a daily basis. But there are times when I've walked down the hallway to see, you know, physical bullying going on, and you know, kids go through that too. So it's not just a psychological angle, but all aspects of bullying are going on in our schools.
And do they do that right in front of like the teacher, the educators?
No, usually they wait until there's nobody around and the person in question can't defend themselves, because usually it's a weaker individual. And so they wait, they have an opportune time to do it, and they take their chances, and they just go on with it.
So Skip, what do you do to help these kids that are afraid to come out and say that they're being bullied? You know, how do you get to those kids?
Well, it is a clandestine behavior. It's only estimated that about 10% of all bully instances within any given school are going to be brought to the attention of adult, because like Angie's saying, kids are embarrassed sometimes that they've been victimized. Sometimes they don't feel like adults can help them out with their situation. They don't understand. So it's really tough. And bullies operate in the dark. You know, they wait till those adults aren't around or when their backs are turned, and some of them pretty slick about how they do things and who they target with their behaviors. So what we try to do is, number one, educate the students. All right, hey, this is what bullying is. This is what it looks like. So we go into the elementary schools, the middle schools, the high schools. We talk about the different behaviors. We talk about some of the consequences and the impact of bullying. And when we look at suicide being the third leading cause of deaths for students and kids who are 14 to 24, that really puts a white-hot spotlight on this issue. When we look at school shootings, 75% of school shootings, it's estimated, are related to bullying situations. And I think the consequences and ramifications of bullying pretty much help crystallize the issue. And when it comes to students and helping them out, we also provide anonymous mechanisms so they can report it. And we have a website, and on our website, we have posters up in every one of our schools, and it says the website on there. So you can just go ahead, log on, fill out a report, and it'll go right into my email inbox. I have a bullying contact at every single one of our schools. So that if the students reported being bullied or they see somebody else being bullied, they can go ahead. If they don't feel comfortable going to an adult face-to-face, they can just report it online to me, and I'll take it to the adults at their school, and we'll get to the bottom of it.
That's great. And they have to come forward at that time, though. Did they come forward with you or the educator at the school? Did they come forward and say, are they willing to open up at that time after they've already emailed you and you've taken, you know, you've went ahead and said, okay, we need to do something about this? Do they usually come out then, or do they just kind of quietly walk away?
Well, usually at that point I hand it off to the schools. Now there have been a few times where I've gone in there to help facilitate the conversation, talk with the students, but usually I hand it off to the school administration. They're well trained in what to do and how to handle these situations once it's brought to their attention. But a lot of times this stuff does operate in the shadows, and our administrators aren't aware of it until it's almost too late sometimes. So that's why it's really imperative that we not just set up these mechanisms for kids to anonymously report, but we need to empower all of our students to speak up against it, to stand up for their classmates, to stand up for themselves. And I think that's the most critical part in the battle that we have against bullying, is standing up against the behavior and not tolerating it.
So when you have someone like Angie who has stood up against it and said, I'm not going to take it, but I'm also, you know, join me, she's getting her fellow students to come out and join her against it and say, we're not going to take this anymore. This is not the way that we should be treated. We're not allowed to be treated that way. You're not going to do this to me.
Yeah, I met a boy recently through youth group. He is embarrassed to report that he's being bullied. He is terrified of what's going to happen to him when the administrators find out that he's reporting a bullying situation. And he was asked yesterday night what his one wish would be if he could have anything in the world. And his wish was that he would never be bullied again. He said, I wish that they would stop hurting me. I wish that I was not a victim of bullying. That's the only thing I want right now. And he's a student at a local high school, and he was terrified. I was talking to him, and he told me that he wouldn't report it. He can't. He can't do it because, what are the other kids going to think? What are they going to do to me when they find out? They already do enough to me as it is, and now that they know that I'm getting them in trouble, I'm going to be in so much trouble with them. And it's just, he's embarrassed and he's shy, and all he can do is wish that somebody is going to step up and say this is wrong, because as of right now, nobody at his school has stepped up to help him.
And that's where we got to change it. We've got to have students go to the defense of their fellow students. And a lot of times when we talk to administrators on how to handle the interviews of the bullying situation, we don't want to bring the two students together and say, well, Johnny's accused you of bullying, because obviously that's going to put the kid on the spot, re-victimize the student in many cases, and it's going to put them at fear of retaliation. So what we like to do is have our administrators go out and find any witnesses, because usually bullies don't do this alone. They like to have an audience that they do it in front of and spread that fear across the school. So we try to find corroborating evidence where we don't have to say that the student said that he was being bullied or she was being bullied. We've had other students that have said this is coming to the forefront. So we don't put the kid out there on the spot. We try to diffuse that and make sure that there's a lot of other eyewitness testimony or other evidence to corroborate the statement and corroborate the issue. And that way we don't put the kid out there for retaliation.
Okay, which is really good, because I think that's what they're afraid of. Because if they're being bullied in the first place and then they go to say that they basically tell on them, and then the bully comes after them even harder, I guess that's their worst fear. So
it is. It's not just that. It's a lot of times teachers are trained to try to sometimes figure out the situation on the spot. So when we go in there and we talk about bullying, we make sure that they understand, not just teachers but administrators as well. Don't ask what happened when you come across a situation like that. I always say it's like a referee throwing a flag on a football field. You threw the flag for a reason. If you're an adult and you see something that's going on that that's wrong, let the students know exactly what you saw and that it's wrong. And if you want to iron out the facts later on, you call those students down separately, you get the facts individually. Because again, you're just going to re-victimize that student if you try to put them through the embarrassment of rehashing what just took place and how they were bullied.
That's true.
We don't want that. And not only that, the kid who's bullying, it depends on the nature of the bullying, but sometimes they're going to be staring daggers at that kid saying, if you say a word, you know what's going to happen to you after this is done. So we don't want to try to put a student in that position where they have to, repeat what just took place for the fear of retaliation and for re-victimization purposes. So we always try to segregate the students that are being targeted for bullying and the bullies themselves.
Okay, that's great. That's really great advice also. What resources are available for the families? I know a lot of times these kids, hopefully, my daughter's only 7, but I have that where you try to keep that communication open, that line of communication open with your parents. What resources are available to the families if they feel like the school, now we know in Manatee County we have a great system in place, but what happens if there's kids out there that don't feel like they can go to the school, but they go home to the families? What resources are available to the families? And
the families need to know exactly the same thing that the students need to know. On our website, the Safe Schools website, there's a link on the district website under departments, and you look for the Safe Schools website. We've got tons of resources on bullying, from the warning signs that you want to look for victims, and even warning signs for bullies themselves. So you want to look at the behavior. And anytime we talk about understanding warning signs, it's always about the change. So if you notice a change in your son or your daughter, in the way that they dress, the way that they act, the clothes that they wear, where they hang out, when they hang out, those are usually going to be indicators that there's something going on that you need to look more closely at. But we've got the warning signs. We've got advice that parents can give to their children so they don't become victims and targets of bullying in the first place. It's got a lot to do with confidence. It's got a lot to do with how you handle the situation and not react in a negative negative way. And we've also got advice on what they can do once their child is a victim of bullying or is a bully themselves. So we've got tons of resources available online. We get those resources to our teachers, to our guidance counselors, to our administrators, so they have access to them as well. There's a lot of places that parents can turn to if they do have questions, if they do have concerns about their child.
Okay, great. What is the website that they could go to get that information?
Safe Schools website. There's a link, if you go onto the district website, there is a link that's called Departments. If you click that on, then you go ahead and look for Safe Schools under Curriculum and Instruction. You click that on and you can pretty much find your way from there. The address, though, is www.manateeschools.net/safe, S-A-F-E. So that's the website
that's great.
address.
That's really great advice to all of our viewers so that they know that if they want to get some more information, that after this, then they can go onto the website. Angie, you've done some other things though too. I know you've been speaking out, and I know that you talked to all of the kids in school about bullying. But what are you wrote a monologue, correct? What can you tell us a little bit about that?
It was a performance for my school project, and it focused more on Dr. Olveus and the effect he's had on bullying and his bullying prevention program that he has in place in many, many different countries. And it started with that, and it worked in a few stories of a few kids that have been bullied, victims of bullycide, kids who had nowhere else to turn, and they decided to share their stories with others. And then there were the kids that committed bullycide because they couldn't handle what they were going through. And I think it was because of that I started to get more involved. And it had to, from that, I started doing public service announcements. And so about bullying and being a friend to other people that you know are being bullied or that you know in your school. Just people that you come in contact with on a daily basis. Just offering them a smile, a hello, how are you doing? And just getting to know them a little bit more than what you see initially. And so I think that's how the monologue that I did.
That's great.
Started.
That's great. And have you been able to gain some attention from it in a positive way? Have the other students, do other students see what you have been doing? And do they realize that if you can do it, that they can do it as well? Do you hear that? Did you get great feedback from students?
Yes, two of my friends actually did a panel discussion with me about bullying because they were so impacted by what I was doing. And I think because of their involvement, a lot more people are stepping up to get involved and make a change in our school, because once they saw that it wasn't just me, but it was other people and there was more than one person, they started thinking that maybe it's a group activity. There's 3 people involved already. Why shouldn't I get involved? Because nobody wants to be the first one to stand up and say this is wrong, and nobody wants to be the one standing alone. So once they realized that there was a group of people that were getting together to do it, I think it kind of opened a few windows, and they decided that it was going to be a good thing for them to do too.
See, that's wonderful. And it's wonderful again about having something sitting in your lap and saying that I'm going to take it and I'm going to do something positive with it, and I'm going to help people and I'm going to embrace people along the way. I have a question to ask about the actual bullies themselves. Do you ever find, Skip, that when you talk to, I'm sure it's the younger the bully is, the better the chances of reforming?
I think so too. And when you talk about a child's moral development, the older children get, the more they realize that some of the behaviors that they're doing and committing, they're probably not something they should be doing. And that's why we see the levels of bullying drop from elementary school, where it's around 40% right now of our children in elementary schools are bullied to some degree. And when we look at middle school, it's now dipped down to 23%, and in high school somewhere around 20%. So we see that reduction based on moral development a lot of times, but also the way that the bystanders react. And as more and more students have the courage to stand up and take action against these bullies, then I think more and more people see, hey, that's something that I respect, that's something I like, and that kind of message spreads as well. But we do try to get in there. We do try to talk to the students and give them the right way to stand up to bullies, the appropriate way, the most effective way, and standing up for themselves and others, and that's the key, is just getting them bystanders involved. And I just love that somebody like Angie can go out there and influence 2 more friends, and those 2 friends can influence somebody else. So when you see somebody doing the right thing, you know, that really has a powerful message that it sends to everybody else, rather than just sitting back and cowering and letting the bullies get away with what they're doing. That empowers a bully.
Yeah.
But when all the kids in the hallway can say, hey, you know, that's not how we do things here. That's not cool. You know, you need to leave that kid alone, or leave me alone. You know, that's going to send that message that we want, and that's how it's going to spread.
That is such great. That's such great advice. I mean, and also I think that in our homes, we need to have the responsibility to teach our children that to be treated like you want to be treated. And I know that we live in a society today where it is a me society 9 times out of 10. And in our homes, we're teaching our children to act and react the way that we would. And I think it's really important as parents that we have to make sure we're looking out for our children and not just looking out to see that, oh, are they being hurt, but make sure that they're using good manners. You know, let's put common sense back in our home. Let's take care of our kids and make sure they're the best that they can be when they're out there too. I think that's our responsibility.
If every parent taught their child, you know, those critical skills in life, we wouldn't have the issues that we have. And that's the thing that we need. It's a partnership between schools and parents to send this message, deliver the message, and fix this problem. It's a community issue. It's a societal issue. But, you know, I think schools are the perfect vehicle to carry that mission out, because we have that opportunity during the school day to teach, to model, and to correct some of these situations in our schools. And hopefully they can take that back to the home environment as well. Because bullying happens everywhere. It's not just school. You know, it's on the playground at school, in the hallways at school, but it also happens back in the communities and back at homes as well. So we're hopeful that the parents can do their part and teach their kids the right way to act. And when a school calls a parent, and that's part of our policy too, that we contact the parents of any situation involving bullying, it's our hope that the parents work with the schools to curb that behavior for students who are accused of bullying.
Yeah, it takes a team. It really does. It takes a team. It's everybody working together to raise these kids, to make sure that they're the best that they can be, because they're going to be adults, you know, and they're going to be, you know, they're going to be running our country. And it may just start with our county, but let's bond together. I mean, we can have a positive domino effect, as we've seen here today. And I think it's been wonderful to be able to sit here with the both of you and learn so much myself, you know, and I'm going to be able to look out as my daughter grows and to see, you know, what's happening with her and her friends, and it'll be interesting. Do either one of you have any other suggestions or that you'd like to make?
Hey, I always drop my 3 C's on kids when I go talk to them about bullying. You got to stay cool, you got to stay calm, and you got to stay confident. You don't want to give the bully the reaction that they expect. All those bullies do, they want to make you upset. They want to make you mad, angry, scared. You know, that's their entire objective. Whether it's physical bullying, social bullying, and relational bullying, it all comes back to emotional bullying. So you don't want to give that bully the reaction that they expect. So you got to be cool, calm, and confident. Look that bully in the eye, smile, and say, hey, you know, take that someplace else. It's not going to work here. You know, and that's what we try to teach our kids, to react in the appropriate way. So if any of your children out there are being bullied, first of all, if it's already happening, they need the help of an adult. It's not going to stop without adult interventions. But before your child's bullied, give them that type of advice. Go online, dial up the Safe Schools website, and look at some of those tips that you can give to your kid to prevent them from becoming a victim in the first place. And I think that's what I'd just like to say to anybody out there that's listening.
That is such great advice. Thank you, Skip. Angie, is there any last thoughts that you'd like to say today?
I'd just like to say that this is going to be a group effort. It's not something that one person can do by themselves. It's not one person can get the ball rolling, but it takes the whole community to make a change. And until you have people behind it, a policy is only words on paper. So you can talk all you want about, you know, fixing things and helping people that are bullied and getting the kids help. But until we step up as a community and start acting it, it's not going to happen. So Skip just gave you websites. He's given so much advice on how parents and teachers and even students, you know, elementary school students, high school students, how we can make a change in our community, how we can help our friends and our friends' friends help each other. And it's not going to happen without everyone behind it. So I think that people need to hear what we're saying and start making a change.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, Skip and Angie, for taking the time out of your busy schedules to be here with me today. We received really great advice and resources available to our community. Children learn by our example. They act and react to situations similar to how an adult would. Our children are our most precious commodity. They are our future. It is our responsibility to guide them with love, compassion, and consideration for others. Not every situation that we find ourselves in is tolerable, but if we take a moment to access and problem solve versus react, snap, and potentially harm, physically or mentally, we can be good examples and change the mindset of our youth. Personally, there are times in my life where I could react in a negative way, but the one thing that I promised myself the day that my daughter was born, I would be a good example so that no matter what my daughter would face in her lifetime, she could move through it and make the best and most considerate decisions for herself and those involved. We want our children to be the best that they can be. If you witnessed a bullying situation, please do not ignore it. As we learned here today, there are great resources available. We can limit impulsive, merciless behavior and bring civility back. Please remember, our children are our future. We need to teach them to treat others as they want to be treated. To all of the great viewers, thank you for spending time with us. Please do not give in to hate or negativity. It just takes our power away. Hate is powerless, love is powerful. Never abuse anyone or take them for granted. Life can literally change in the blink of an eye. Please join us for future programs. I would love to hear from you. Do you have any ideas for future shows? You may have an idea that can aid others. Please feel free to email me at melissa@motivatelife.com. Please remember the one thing that we can be sure of is this one moment. Yesterday is gone and tomorrow is our future. Embrace this moment. If it is a tough one, know that you own the power to move through it. Take the time to make good choices, to make informed decisions, and to focus Manatee. I am grateful. You are appreciated. Thank you for sharing your moments with me.